More reasons that Hollywood should not be run by men. They waterboarded this woman. Look at it. Look at this. Then Game of Thrones, they waterboarded her for 10 hours. Okay, I'm going to tie a bunch of stuff together about why women should be producing, directing, writing, and basically any movement fighting for workers' rights in Hollywood, whether it's, acting or crew members or whatever, writers, it should be led not only by women, but center Black women. Because I'm going to give you all some examples, but let's just start off with this one. So to be clear, I've never watched Game of Thrones. It sounded like there's way too many characters. I don't have 56 extra hours of time to catch up. And I kept seeing that they were using a grape and all kinds of crazy stuff, basically torturing women for plot devices. And that is the laziest writing. And it's what men do all the time. Grape. I mean, that's another reason. Sam Levinson, get rid of him. Anyway, Game of Thrones did this. So one of the things that actors had to worry about on a regular basis is what's going to happen to their characters, because they weren't given scripts until the last minute, which I can't imagine what a nightmare that is. Anyway, after a while, people were continue to criticize these dudes for using grape and all kinds of stuff gratuitously. I'm not against using grape, but there has to be a point other than to make drama. And also the way it's filmed, I find very problematic in almost every movie, almost everyone. Mad Men being one of the only times I've ever seen a grape scene that wasn't really disturbing. Let me know if you want to see that video. So they ended up rewriting it because it was supposed to be something grapey. And they're like, oops, I guess we got to do something different. How about waterboard her? So she got a script at the last minute saying you need a wetsuit, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, yeah. So when she arrives on set, they're like, oh, waterboard, here's your wetsuit. And she was like, okay, but we're not actually doing waterboarding. And they're like, no, we are. And because, I say this as somebody who worked on set for many years in New York, I don't want to know what it's like to be an actor on set, but that culture, it's hard to say no. It's hard to say no to daddy director and daddy creator or any of the men with power or anyone with power, because a lot of the women act almost as bad as men, if not worse, in order to fit into this toxic culture. And your biggest fear is being blacklisted. So you just kind of have to go with it a lot of time, unless you have serious star power. And a union won't even help you a lot of time because they can't in these situations oftentimes. Although we need unions, go unions, yay union. And look into this. Other than childbirth, it was the worst day of my life. Lena, the other character, was uncomfortable pouring liquid in my face for that long, and I was beside myself. But in these moments, you got to go, do you, get her done, or do you chicken out, and go, this isn't what I signed up for. The fact that she frames it as chickening out shows how much she's internalized it and what they put actors through and people on set through and just women through in general. Is like, oh, I'll just, toughen up and just do it because the man wants it, because his brilliant creative vision needs a waterboarding scene. Like, come on. So she said when she walked past the director after they're done filming, he was like, oh, how'd that go? You okay? And she's like, not really. He then said, the crew have just been saying we're actually really waterboarding you here. And I was like, yep, you don't need to tell me that. Now look at this. She was driven by the creator's desire for authenticity. God, they hide behind authenticity all the time. And her trust in the production team. And so she said, I didn't want the strap tight around my neck. But as they pointed out, if the camera can see you lifting your head up to save yourself, that's not authentic. Which I made videos a while back of how much I hate Quentin Tarantino because he hides behind authenticity too. He's basically gets to play out his corn fantasy with women, with his actresses, spits in their face, practices strangling them, because instead of acting, they actually need to experience it for it to be authentic. Fork these guys and their stupid creative vision. So she says that the Game of Thrones co-creator Dan Weiss pointed out, in the script it says that Cersei empties the remainder of her glass of red wine on her. People aren't going to think that's enough. That's not enough. Retribution for Cersei or whatever. I don't care how you pronounce her name because I hate the show because I don't even want to watch it. I'm so mad at the show. It needs to be 3/4 full or so. Basically they're negotiating with her, trying to get her to, just do it. It needs to look real. And look, she said to herself, I kept thinking to myself, the production company aren't going to let you die. So get on with it. Be uncomfortable. Do you see how they've manipulated us, y'all? Just get on with it. Whether it's shooting this ridiculous scene with this stupid male director and creator or whatever, or it's just, just hook up with this dude. Just hook up with him. Just get on with it, whatever. Just get it over with. Do you see why we need to decenter men in literally everything? And they need to decenter themselves in literally everything because they are dangerous and reckless and get people all the time and traumatize people. And we really need to stop thinking that they're not going to get us killed because they do. Need I remind you of this woman? Do you have any idea how rare it is to have a DP, a director of photography, who's a woman, a successful one? Do you know how hard it is to make it in that department? She was one of very few gone because of this dude, who then tried to pin it on this woman. I'm not saying that she doesn't have any part of it, but the fact that they tried to blame her for all of this, when anybody who works in film knows, and all of the crew member vouched for this dude was one of the producers. All those producers who refused to pay for an appropriate person to deal with all those pew-pews, who cut the budget and were literally making dangerous decisions. The first AD also very toxic. But all of this comes down to money. And the producers, I'm sorry, the producers are responsible, along with the first AD, for the safety of that set. And this is one of the producers. Oh, and he also pulled the trigger. But apparently, charges were dropped. I did not see this news. I find this so upsetting. As somebody who worked on crews for many years, mostly in the art department, so many men making reckless, terrible decisions because of greed and them thinking they're geniuses. They will literally pay thousands and thousands of dollars for like the dumbest detail and not pay their staff enough money to get home safely, put them behind the wheel, put them in dangerous situations, not hire enough people so that those people, so that the crew is not over like burning out. And then we'll spend an insane amount of money on the dumbest crap because of their creative genius. You know what their creative genius did to another woman? Do y'all remember her? Another young woman in the camera department, which again, it is very hard. It's so rare to see women in the camera department. It's hard to go through the ranks of any department in film, but especially one that's like a man's, you know? They got her run over by a train, y'all. Let me know if you want me to go into details of this. When I found this out, when I read this story, I was so upset because all of this happened because the producers, you know, and the men running this thing were like, no, we don't need to find out the train schedule. It's like the series of events was men who were reckless, which I talk about all the time. Men are terrible leaders and they're reckless and they put people in danger all the time, but especially women and children. And they just had to get the shot. They just had to get the shot. Like, I hated that phrase. Got to get the shot. So many of these egomaniacal men directing this crap are like, no, I got to do that. Like, they always put their ego and their genius vision above the safety of dozens, if not hundreds of people. And then they get hurt. They traumatize the whole crew. Several people were like literally jumping off this bridge to not get run over by a train that they did not know was coming because they didn't listen to the warning. They just had to get the shot. And then literally she got run. Can you imagine that kind of death? Run over by a train? And if they don't put women in danger and get them unalive, they treat them like crap, especially Black women. So Leslie Jones just came out with a memoir and she is spilling the tea. I love it. Look at this. She got offered 1% of Melissa McCarthy's salary. 1% of Melissa McCarthy's salary. All these white women in this movie, Ghostbusters, were offered significantly more than Leslie Jones. And Leslie Jones is the funniest. They made it clear to her that she should feel lucky to be on this movie that's going to blow up and change her life. Oh, it changed her life, all right, but not for the better. They offered her $67,000 for that role, and she had to fight hard to get $150K, which is she deserved way more than that. She was already very successful before taking on that movie role, and they're treating her like she's a newcomer. They offer Melissa McCarthy $14 million. But besides the pay thing, her experience with the backlash, especially from men, white men, but in general, really traumatized her. She kept having to delete her Twitter account. Jack Dorsey had to intervene and try to help her figure out how to protect her from all the hate. You know, this is next level hate if the Twitter of Oz is stepping in. She also called out this douchebag and says she's not going to forgive him for this. And she shouldn't. Basically, he's done making like the Juno of Ghostbusters, you know, a womany Ghostbuster. That he wants to make a Ghostbusters back to the original folk, the original fan. As if that doesn't include women. Hollywood is run by rich white pricks, and I'm so over it. And they suck at it.